To the esteemed planetary governors of all neighboring systems, and the commanders of any Imperial forces who managed to pick up this message in segmentum obscurus. I am Colonel Elias Voss, loyal servant of the Emperor. I have been entrusted with the defense of Hayde-Prime's main hive city, Hayde-Prime. My words are not that of a mere after-action report, but a chronicle of horror and the destruction of our lives. A testament to the unyielding malice of the enemies of mankind that has blackened our skies. The Iron Warriors, those accursed bastards of the warp, descended upon us like a mechanized plague. I commit these words to the holy astropathic relay in the hope that they serve as a dire warning. The enemy is at our gates, and if this city falls, your worlds might be next. Heed my words, for the Emperor protects, and you are his deliverance. It began with our deep space augury arrays giving us pings as to activities being present. But after having sent a request for verification, a scratchy signal informed us as the error was due to an unappeased machine spirit. The Void Sentinels, then later our orbital Auspex arrays, started to register other anomalies in the outer reaches of our system. Any attempts at re-establishing contact with the augury station was met with failure. This was only brought to my attention as my staff was discussing if this was due to technical errors or warp echoes, as Hayde-Prime is no stranger to such disturbances, perched as we are on the edge of the Cicatrix Maledictum. But then the shadows coalesced into hulking silhouettes, and a fleet of ironclad behemoths, their hulls scarred with millennia of warfare and heresy, bearing the jagged insignia of the traitorous 4th Legion. I had to roar my staff from stupor as augur verification came back. We heard tales from survivors of the Cadian Gate that these are siege masters without peer, who view worlds not as bastions of humanity, but as puzzles to be dismantled with cold precision. I demanded my officers to mobilize the Planetary Defense Force immediately and make ready our other defenses, and to have the servants of the Machine God breach the seals to our supply bunkers. Our hive city is a monolith of adamantium and ferrocrete, with layers upon layers of defense, home to over 8 billion souls, from the underhive slums to the gilded spires of nobility. Our defenses are formidable, and no enemies of mankind would ever find us an easy target. Garrisoned by regiments of PDF troopers, we even have access to a few regiments of Imperial Guard. My men, the best of humanity drawn from the hive's teeming masses, set up and entrenched alongside the walls, creating kill zones and barricades. We had Lehman Russ tanks prowling the mid-hive boulevards, Basilisk artillery who made ready to rain down the fury of the God Emperor, and even a rare contingent of Ogren auxiliaries for close quarters brutality. Recognizing the desperation of the situation, I even ordered my second-in-command, Harlan, to start a draft of hive gangers. These men and women, as per the doctrine of the great Commander Commissar Yarrick, will fight just as hard as any guardsman in defense of their home. I pray that it will be enough. I stood in the command bunker, buried deep in the hive's core, watching hololithic displays flicker with readiness reports. For the Emperor, I broadcasted to my forces, my voice steady despite a growing knot in my gut. We had expected a thunderous charge, but what we got was a calculated dissection. The initial assault came not from the skies, but from within. Saboteurs, cultists or worse, and other embedded mortal operatives had infiltrated the hive months prior. Explosive rocketed the foundation levels, collapsing access shafts and venting toxic fumes into the lower half blocks. This was all but a precursor, as the alarms wailed and seismic sensors detected what was assault drills, thermite infernal engines of the Traitor chewing through the dirt of dirt and rock like ravenous insects. Soon they would not only be upon us, but within the lower parts of the hive city. My forward observers reported the first breaches, armored figures emerging from dust thrown up into the air with precision bombardment. They stood like giants draped in power armor, painted with hazard stripes and rust, wielding siege hammers and boulders with mechanical efficiency. They were not the frothing berserkers of the Blood God or the plague-ridden horrors of Nurgle. They were engines of death, methodically advancing under covering fire from heavy emplacements and more bombardment. Harlan reported contact in the Underhive warrens, where the light is scarce and the air had become thick with black smoke. His PDF squads, armed with everything our supply bunkers could provide, poured volley after volley into the invaders. For a moment, hope bristled as a squad managed to fell an Iron Warrior by detonating several crack grenades point blank, giving their lives in the service of the God Emperor. Harland, bless his soul, had created several kill zones thanks to the expert knowledge of the drafted hive gangers, and another report indicated another kill of an Iron Warrior as placed explosive detonated a habitation block, caving in a point of entry and landing straight up upon the Traitor. But our enemy adapted. I lost contact with Harland. His last report described the enemy deploying a horde of scrap code frenzied servitors, followed up by more mortal cannon fodder. I watched the holistic pick feeds as additional hab blocks caved in, burying civilian and soldiers alike under tons of debris. I pray for their souls. Slowly, our defenses were mapped, scrap code starting distorting our Auspex feeds, and soon explosive charges were used to create paths around our defenses and prepared kill zones. By the end of the first day, they had secured a foothold, turning it into a fortified beachhead complete with razor wire and minefields. As the invasion progressed, the horrors never relented. The enemy brought their siege engines to bear, Vindicator tanks rumbling through the arterial streets of the hive, Demolisher cannons pulverizing our barricades and choke points. We counter-attacked with our own mechanized forces. Chimera-mounted infantry got turned back by a singular machine, an ancient armored behemoth known as a Land Raider. This hate-fueled machine repelled my troops with precision fire, and its hull withstood everything that we could throw at it. The mid-hive became a labyrinth of fire and ruin. Promenades, once bustling with workers, now echoed with the booms of siege hammers. The servants of the Emperor fought valiantly, but the casualty was mounting and the day was lost. The hive itself began to shudder under the violation. The city is a living entity, its arteries of power conduits and aqueducts sustaining billions. But as the enemy made surgical strikes at these very fundamentals for life, they became as much of a weapon as anything else. Plasma reactors in the lower spires detonated, plunging entire districts into darkness. Water recyclers were poisoned with corrosive agents, turning sustenance into acid that burned from within. Riots erupted in the unaffected zone as refugees were pushed upwards and flooding everything that they came across, straining our supply lines. I ordered harsh rationing and martial law. Even in these times, I would not accept disorder in my home. I started being able to feel the city shake. As the last days, I would have to personally wipe dust and debris from our screens. Even the upper spires trembled. The progress of the invasion counted a grim tally, and reports started coming back to us again. Underhive lost, mid-hive contested, upper spires breached by aerial assaults. casualties mounting into unsustainable numbers, and the idea of any civilian evacuation became nothing but a farce. My command staff dwindled, and reports became fewer and fewer. Yet we endured. Falling back to the core spires where the ecclesiarchy preachers rallied the faithful with litanies of hate, enabling us to create several civilian mobs ready to die in the name of the God Emperor. None of this, however, changed the fact that the March of the Iron Warriors' advance was unstoppable, a grinding wheel of attrition that favored their immortal endurance over our mortal flesh. This is no swift conquest. It's a prolonged agony, designed to break our spirits before our bodies. The traitors revel in it, their voxhail mocking our feeble walls as they erect their own iron fortresses amidst the rubble. If the hive falls, my home will become a fortress of darkness and heresy, where what we have seen today will simply repeat itself. To you, my brethren in nearby systems, do not underestimate the enemy. Reinforce your underhives, purge your cults, and bolster your orbitals. Request Astartes' aid without delay. Our hive's fates hang by a thread, but if we fall, the shadow of the Traitor Legion will stretch to your worlds. Stand vigilant, for the Emperor demands it. The invasion continues, our last guns still fire. Pray for us, and prepare. The Emperor protects.